Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some massive news for us Michigan fans coming out Saturday afternoon. Four-star quarterback Brady Smigiel committing to Michigan. Dill did some fact checking, kind of like my Saturday morning reading, if you will. This is the first time in a long time that Michigan has stacked three straight blue chip quarterbacks on top of each other on the recruiting trail. Jaden Davis, Bryce Underwood, now Brady Smigiel. And look, there's a lot to like about Brady Smigiel. If I were to sell the Michigan fans in 30 seconds on Brady Smigiel and what he can be at the quarterback position for this Michigan program, Dale, I would just point you to the high school numbers. This kid is going to be a 4-year starter at the high school ranks through 3 seasons at the high school level, 11,000 passing yards, 147 touchdowns, 28 interceptions. In 2024, 3,500 passing yards, 49 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. You're not going to find a quarterback that has put up the numbers that is more accomplished at the high school ranks than a kid like Brady Smigiel. Now, what's really fascinating about this kid is the recruiting services are all over the place. Rivals, they have him as a bona fide 5-star prospect, top 30 national prospect on 3, outside of the top 200 nationally. Dill, to me, it's just kind of like, what's your flavor quarterback? He's not a super twitchy, different arm angle, flashy quarterback like a guy like Caleb Williams. Dill kind of reminds me of his Ryan Mallett a little bit. Like, this is a big body that wants to operate from the pocket. There's 2 things that jump out to me when I turn on Brady Smigiel. And number one is this dude's understanding of the sport, of the quarterback position, is elite. Then you start doing some diving into kind of the background. He's a son of a coach. Like, that checks out. Dill, number 2, throwing with anticipation is some next level stuff. It's all over the film. And look, Brady Smigiel doesn't have the biggest arm in the 2026 cycle, but it's not an arm that's going to prohibit him at the collegiate ranks. You look at a guy like Cade McNamara or a guy like Davis Warren, like, they had arms that kind of limited what you could do with him. Like Brady Smigiel, it's not a huge arm. It's not like Bryce Underwood, but he ain't going to be able to. There's not a throw that you're not going to be able to ask him to make, if that makes sense. Excited to get into a little bit of the film, talk about where Michigan goes from here. Before we get into it, as always, to the Michigan fans, appreciate you guys. Look, I think it's going to ramp up. And I know there's a lot of Michigan fans that are maybe frustrated with the slow start to the 2026 cycle. Dill, Michigan's casting a wide net. They've had a ton of talent on campus over the last couple of weeks, going to have a ton of talent on campus for the official visits in the summer. When Michigan decides to start pushing hard, I think the commitments are going to kind of start to pile up. So if I'm a Michigan fan, I'm not too concerned about quote unquote slow start to the 2026 cycle. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, I had you dive into Brady Smigiel as well. Thoughts, early opinions on what he brings to this Michigan offense?
Yeah, I think what stands out is you kind of said it. Like maybe none of the crazy traits that would make you a 5-star really jump off the screen. But aside from the fact that, like, I mean, just really steady player and really good making throws into tight windows with
Yeah.
anticipation, the things you kind of mentioned, and like being able to layer footballs over the top of guys and underneath safeties, just like those things that again don't like jump off the screen. It's not maybe the Bryce Underwood size athleticism combination along with the arm that gets you that kind of 1-1-1 status, if you will, but just that ability to play the position at a really high level. And I do think his athleticism is a little underrated. Like, it doesn't feel
Yeah.
like to me
Yeah.
like a Cade McNamara
No.
situation where, like, well, he was just a really bad athlete and it was a huge problem throughout his whole college career.
He's like between, so like JJ McCarthy was a very solid athlete at the quarterback position. Cade McNamara was a pretty poor athlete at the quarterback position. Like Brady Smigiel is somewhere in between. He's a guy
And
that can
he
create.
throws on the run
Yeah.
really well, I
Yeah.
thought. So again, he's like maybe not like Houdini in the pocket, but when he needs to get outside, he does make good, accurate throws from the run.
Yeah. And I one of the things that I loved, though, when I was kind of watching is he walks the line of like, it's a tight window. Like, this kid is not afraid to fit that football into a very tight window, but walks a very good line. Like, only 3 interceptions as a junior. That's oftentimes hard for young quarterbacks to kind of balance where I'm going to make some big time throws, but I'm also going to keep the ball out of harm's way. Like Brady Smigiel does that at a pretty high level. Like I can understand why Rivals has him as a 5-star because there are certain traits. And if this is your kind of quarterback, like a guy that just understands the position, there's a lot to like with this kid. Want to turn on the film a little bit, Dill, and just kind of get a sense for his game. You're going to see one. I mean, he a little bit mechanical at the quarterback spot. Ball is always pretty dang high, which you like. Like the mechanics are very solid. Like what other high school quarterbacks are making this throw, dude? I mean, talk about throwing with anticipation over the middle of the field. That does not get any better. And he's throwing off platform, Dill. You talked about it, like kind of layering the football a little bit. Very, very impressive. Another anticipation throw. I mean, he's throwing this before the wide receiver's even looking, and we are going to drop that sucker right in a bucket. And look at Brady.
I think the other thing, if you're kind of watching through, like just the calmness in the pocket,
Oh
it's
yeah,
not
Lee.
that like
Yeah.
even when the rush is coming, he just keeps himself moving. It's not like when you feel the rush, you start running. And I feel like again, that was really frustrating for Michigan last year. I thought I was like, God,
Well, there's just a lot of quarterbacks coming out of high school that are also some of the better athletes on the football field. So they're just going to start playing backyard football. Like Brady Schmiegel, very, very composed,
he
manages the
keeps the
pocket.
ball up, he keeps it high, he just moves a
Yeah.
little bit. It's like a little like Brady-esque in terms of like again, I'm not saying
Ooh,
he's Tom Brady, but like
I
that
like it.
style of being in the
Yeah.
pocket where you're never like out of
Yeah.
control or you
But
don't
at the
feel
same
like
time, he can create. Like if it's time to get outside the pocket, he can do it. Dill, you talked about layering the football. Like he can drive that sucker in too. Tight window, drive it in over the middle of the field. Like certainly can do it. Showing
it
off a little bit of the
hits
burners.
people in stride too. I mean, it's like he doesn't hit guys behind him. Like you're seeing a lot of yards after the catch. He's hitting guys in stride, throwing a catchable football. Like again, it's just that you're not seeing crazy, crazy trades pop off necessarily from a physical standpoint, but just really clean quarterback play, which again, like that really does matter. I feel like people try to poo poo that a little bit, but like, yeah, you want to be able to throw with anticipation. You want to be able to hit guys in
Oh, I
stride,
mean, you could
throw
take like a
catchable
guy like
balls.
Joe Milton, who is dripping with traits, had every trait you wanted in the book. But if you can't play the position, you ain't gonna have much success. Dill, you talk about like managing the pocket, like feeling pressure, stepping up, but keeping your eyes downfield. Like that's some of the most impressive stuff that Brady Schmiegel brings to the table. And can make any throw. It's not like he again great pocket management, getting outside when he needs to. Bigger body, hard to bring down. Like you're talking 6'4", 210, probably gonna play 6'5", 220 at Michigan. It's a big body that's hard to bring down for this defensive lineman with their arms. Good ball placement. Dill, Michigan's class in 2026. This is your fourth commitment. And here's what I'll say that it stands out to me. One, hell of a job by Chip Lindsey. I'm really excited to see what Chip Lindsey can do on the recruiting trail at the quarterback position. Number two, love locking in some blue chip quarterback talent early on in the process. You know, we as Michigan fans are a little bit frustrated with how Michigan has acquired talent at the pass catcher position. Well, I think a large part of it was outside of JJ and now Bryce, he never really landed the elite quarterbacks. He never really had the offense that's super attractive to the pass catchers. You stack three straight blue chip quarterbacks. You're bringing Chip Lindsey to revamp this offense, and all of a sudden, like you start getting into the 2025 year, and we start showing a little bit of a different brand of Michigan offense with Bryce and Chip. And now you have a four-star quarterback that's very, very talented throwing the football, been highly productive at the high school ranks. Maybe this offense becomes a little bit more attractive for some of the top pass catchers across the country.
Because I think a guy like their battle for Derek Meadows, I mean, it would have been really hard to convince him that Michigan was the spot, if you will, before you
Yeah.
kind of had that quarterback lockdown. Now, obviously, eventually Bryce Underwood kind of came along, but that was very, very late in the process, would have always made it hard to bring in top tier wideouts. Like again, credit to Andrew Marsh, like big time wideout. Like he kind of took a risk, if you will, almost committing to Michigan at the point they were at with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you didn't feel like you were going to
And
land
Dill,
a
we almost lost
quarterback.
Andrew Marsh. We almost lost Andrew Marsh for like some of those reasons. Like he committed before the season started. The offense was what it was in 2024. Like the Washington Huskies were pushing hard. You know it. And the last thing is, hey, we probably should have led with this. Credit Brady Schmiegel. Like they ain't a lot of quarterbacks that
Yeah.
would commit to a program having followed the best recruit in the country in Bryce Underwood. I thought Michigan might have taken the approach of, hey, let's just not take a quarterback in 2026 because it's going to be hard to get a quarterback to come in and push their chips into 2027. Now, I will say it does seem like Michigan's going to be pushing their chips in for a 2027 quarterback. Getting Brady Smigiel to come in, I think is massive, and it tells me he's one not afraid to, hey, I'll wait for a year or two if I need to and develop. He ain't afraid to have some competition either, which I think stands out because there ain't a lot of quarterbacks like that anymore in the landscape of college football. One more commitment potentially on the way for Michigan today. We'll see. We'll obviously break it down if and when it happens. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.